Life. It is both long and boring, yet at the same time, brief and brutal. During the best times, you never want it to end, and yet it seems to end in the blink of an eye. And at the worst times, you just can't wait for it to end. You just can't wait to just die, and it feels like it lasts an eternity. Why is it like that? Why is it like the worst times just seem to fucking drag on forever? But honestly, most of the time, at least in my experience, life is just sort of, I think the French said it best, ennui. It's just long and boring. And in times like those, which are most of the time, you just kind of need something to entertain you, something to keep your overtaxed mind occupied. Something like this show. Welcome to That Thing with James. I'm your host, James. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're not new to the show, hello. How's it going, newbies? This show is about, well, nothing in particular. It's just sort of a hangout. It's just a curiosity. If you're interested in learning about new people, if you love just conversations, if you want to just learn about different sorts of subjects that I'm curious about any particular week and want to learn along with me and, explore conversation with me, tune in. Subscribe if you haven't already. And for those of you who are not new, and if you haven't already, do consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. Show your support for the show. Come on. I put work into this stuff. You might not know, but I actually put a lot of work into this show. So show your appreciation. Become a patron, and you'll get something back for it. It starts at just $5 a month. That's it. $5 for a whole month, and you will get one new episode every week, plus access to all of the previously recorded and released bonus episodes. Not only that, but there are different tiers with different benefits. I can do shout-outs, written shout-outs, verbal shout-outs. I can even hand write to you and mail to you a thank you letter. And it's not just going to be some brief, "Oh, thank you, signed James" kind of BS. No. If you've been watching this show for some time, you'll know I'm a chatty guy, and that's no different when it comes to the written word. I will write you a premium handwritten thank you letter and snail mail it to you. So, yeah, become a patron at patreon.com/thatthingwithjames. Show your support for the show. Help me keep this ship running. If you have a story or subject you would like to see me cover on the show, if you are in need of advice, I'd love to give you advice, especially if it's a topic I know nothing about, and I will keep you anonymous. If you have a business inquiry, or if you just want to say nice things, send me an email at thatthingwithjames@gmail.com. You can find me on social media. My handle is at James J. Asher. And if your computer and or phone is just bursting with shitty memes, put them on my subreddit, r/thatthingwithjames. Now, business is over. Let's talk about this episode. In this episode, I got to do one of my favorite things. Well, two of my favorite things. First favorite thing is I got to talk to a new person. The second favorite thing is I got to complete a circle. See, I started this circle in episode 100 and in the bonus episode that was released the same week as episode 100. See, I got to interview one of the hosts of one of my favorite podcasts. That would have been Audrey of Radio Free Tote Bag, a fantastic relationship advice show. And I just, after that, I had such a good time, and I really needed to, again, complete the circle, I needed to talk to the other half. So in this episode, in this one right now, I get to interview Donovan, the second half of Radio Free Tote Bag. So he's a super sweet guy. I had a great time talking to him, and fuck it, let's just get right into the interview. Welcome to the show. Who are you, and what are you doing here?
I'm Donovan, one half of the hit dating and relationship advice podcast, Radio Free Tote Bag.
Woohoo!
Oh, and we're doing
so
seeing there too.
The circle is complete. I got to interview your co-host, and now I'm getting to interview you. How does it feel?
I'm glad to be going second.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to okay, we're doing a show. I can watch Audrey do her thing on this, get a sense of what's going on. Because we haven't done much video stuff yet.
Were you nervous?
Not too much, but going into guest spots, sometimes I'm so used to kind of sitting down at the desk to record our show, and it's more or less the same structure every week.
Right.
So it's kind of all right, throw me in the seat and I'll go. But going to somebody else's show before, and I have to think, I'm do I know how to act on a camera? Do I know how to answer questions about myself, not about other people, or people asking me a question about themselves? You know what I'm saying? The tables have turned.
Oh, the tables have turned. And yeah, the video element, what do you do with your hands? Hold them up here, put them down, who knows?
Drink the seltzer the entire time with my hand.
Drink the seltzer. It's always good to have something to do with your hands. If you don't know what to do with them, hold shit.
Just looking around for objects that I could grasp in here.
Yeah. There's actors whose entire careers are based entirely on them holding shit.
Like a prop situation? Like their prop expertise kind of thing?
Yeah. So I studied acting, specifically Meisner technique, and it's not like prop acting, but one of the keys to the technique is to have something to do in the scene, like physically do, like something you can complete within the span of time from the beginning and end of the scene. Like say if you're, for example, playing Jenga or something, and the trick is to just get you out of your head. So you're focused more in the moment, and then you can't overthink and then act bad. You know what I mean?
That makes total sense.
Oh yeah.
As somebody with anxiety, that's something I do as a coping mechanism sometimes. If I find my mind going out too wild, if you find a straightforward task you can complete, or something you're doing at the same time as I don't know, waiting for a phone call, or talking on a long call or something. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a different part of my brain that's occupied. And if I have that doing its thing, then it's it's not going to be bothering my thinking part of my brain or whatever. It's very interesting.
Exact. It's like you have an overflow of energy, and I've got anxiety too, so it'll go into the spiral and the shaky hands. I don't know if you get. I get shaky hands real bad. But yeah, having a goal you can do in the immediate time and space definitely gets you out of your head and more in the world. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I love RFTB. It's a great show.
Thank you.
I think you two give very good advice. Not gonna lie. I think it's sound advice. Did you go to school for couples counseling or anything like that?
No. I have my degree in psychology, but I can't pretend that informs a whole lot of it outside of just kind of general concepts and interest of my own experience with anxiety and stuff, because that all plays in. But I was doing social study stuff. I was doing studies on how people react to targeted advertising specifically.
Oh yeah.
More kind of group psychology type of thing. Really not anything to do with I don't know what you'd think about the abnormal psych, not so much. Not so much on the relationship stuff. Yeah, we're 100% not experts, but we both just really like talking about this stuff. And I know Audrey's the same way. I think both of us had just had a pretty wide past range of experiences, some of those being really, really shitty and really unpleasant to be in. And when you got the anxiety and depression on top of that, it's just such a fucking shitty, lonely place to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, with my friends, I always like talking to people about that stuff because it's this common thing. I'd been through some stuff, and to be able to help somebody when they're in that dark place or give them any sort of like, hey, you're not alone in this, that makes me feel really good. That is like something I care a whole lot about because it's such a shitty place to be.
It is. And yeah, you do feel so alone. And yeah, it is nice to know that you're not alone and that you're not the first person to go through hell.
For sure. Because it's, any relationship, I think they can be so much more complex than you would expect, especially early on getting into dating. You're like, oh, we go on a couple dates and then we're boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, where to even begin with the structure? Like, people might want completely different structures of relationships, or they like see your day to day as like a totally different thing, and past experiences affect that. You just have this whole like kind of messy web that's hard to keep track of. And I also think just talking about that stuff and getting it out there and hearing from people's similar experiences, you start to kind of find like the common threads in all of these situations that when you're in them might just be totally overwhelming. You start to be like, oh, wait, like this reminds me of like this kind of codependent situation that was happening over here. Was my relationship codependent? Oh shit, I think it was in the past.
Yeah.
What can I learn out of that? Like, how can I avoid that situation again? Because that wasn't good. That kind of thing.
What are like some of the most common patterns of like problems you and Audrey see from the people who reach out to you, or stories you find for RFTB? Are there like really, or do you see like really dominant patterns happening in people's lives?
The big one, I think, is first time experiences across the board. First time having sex, first time doing like a sex thing that's different than what you usually do, first relationship, first date. And I think, again, all of those things, like the common thread through them is if you keep that shit inside, you just start spiraling. It's like, oh, there's so many like things to worry about and stuff. And, oh, am I weird for like wanting to do this way? When, again, like I think so much of that stuff is common to people. They're on some sort of spectrum with whatever element of relationships you're looking at. But so a lot of that, even first breakups, like I guess first doing some kind of move in a relationship context that you haven't done before, like moving in together for the first time is another big one. Just a lot of people were kind of like, I think I want to do this,
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, or like maybe my partner's on the fence. I think it's a lot of that people come for. Because again, I think you just kind of want to know this isn't a like crazy thing. You're not weird for feeling this way. Other people have been through this too. Like it's okay.
What's like, if there were like a magic key to helping people have like more functional relationships, is there like one key piece of advice you could think of?
This is probably biased towards how my own brain works, but I've found other people kind of with this situation are finding help from this. But I've been talking on recent episodes. I had a question last week, somebody talking about forgiveness in the context of failed relationships or trauma. And they were talking about like kind of all across the board from, do I forgive the other person to like forgiving myself? And that's something that forgiveness of yourself is something that I've been on a lot recently. As I mentioned before with the anxiety stuff, and you said, there's that spiral element to it, right?
Oh, yes.
You start feeling bad and you're like, something's wrong. So your anxious mind starts spooling up, and then that's making your body freak out because you're like, something bad's going to happen. And then that makes it spool up even more. And I was talking to somebody about this last night. I feel like there's kind of like 3 steps through this process of like recognizing the anxiety. There's this first one where that spiral happens and you don't even realize, and you just get sucked down until it gets as bad as it possibly can get.
Right.
At a certain point, you start recognizing that that spiral happens, but you don't know how to change it. You just know that it sucks. And so it happens and you recognize it. And then maybe you beat yourself up for letting it happen, or you try to force it to not happen. Like, you know, I'm going to get really drunk and then stop it, or whatever, like bandage you're trying to slap on it. But the kind of place I've been at it now, where I feel like I'm able to bounce back quicker and not spiral so hard. And this plays into the relationships too. But it's just taking that moment, catching yourself and not being like, you fucked up, or, oh, this just keeps happening, but just thinking like, this happens, you know, it's okay. It's not a failure on my part. I'm just going to sit here and like sit with the bad feelings for a little bit, let myself know that it's okay. And then just try to keep moving in a more positive direction. And when it crops back up, you just keep kind of doing that same thing. Like a gentle touch with yourself is what I'm getting at.
That's like mindfulness. If a thought or a feeling pops up, acknowledge it and then let it pass by, like I say, like a cloud going past a window.
Yeah. I think of a leaf floating on a river. I always kind of picture in my head I'm sitting next to a river. But yeah, no, I'm very into that as well. I've been doing meditation for quite some time and started doing the yoga recently. You asked about with the relationships, though. I know Audrey mentioned this when she was on. People have different views on this, but I think we're both of a pretty close mind of like, take care of your internal stuff as best you can before trying to get into that relationship. Try to know yourself as best you can and just be able to be okay on your own. Yeah. Because then when something comes up in that relationship, when that spiral comes up, like you have all the techniques kind of ready to deal with that. You know where you want to be. You're able to communicate stuff more easily. So just, it's a little counterintuitive, but like by putting the work into just kind of yourself more so than I need to find somebody, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Like would you agree? Like I always say, you have to learn how to love yourself before you can truly know how to love another.
100%. I feel that too. And it comes to that forgiveness stuff too, because like when you're in that mindset, I think you tend to be less harsh on other people. And that's relationships in general, but especially an intimate one when you're around a person a lot, you're living together and there's like, you know, the little irritations that'll come up or clashes or whatever. If you're on those good terms with yourself, I think it's easier to be like, this person's not like doing this to fuck with me or something. They're not trying to be an asshole. They just got their own stuff going on too. Maybe they're having an anxious day, you know?
Right.
Empathy is cool. That's where I'm at.
So what's your relationship history like?
An interesting one. I've gone through like some pretty big phases with it. I didn't start, I guess my first girlfriend, my first kiss, and lost my virginity within about 3 months when I was 15.
Oh.
After being raised very Catholic, getting confirmed, and like in kind of those mid-teenage years being like, yeah, I think I'm into Catholicism. I'm going to do this.
Oh yeah. I'm Catholic too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. We've both got the damage.
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? I'll send Our Father your way later. Maybe a couple Hail Marys. Who knows?
Thank you.
But no, so I kind of got dropped into it fucking hard and was like raised, you know, went to Catholic schools, and so had a pretty, I would say, outdated view of relationships and like sexuality and all of that. As very a lot of anxiety and shame around that. But so I was just dropped headlong into this thing, and I was like, wait a second, this is pretty great. the sex element and all of this stuff, this is all great. Maybe the Catholicism's not so great. And then I kind of went head first into that. That part was when I was out of the country too, at the first half of high school. And then I came back having had that experience in high school, junior and senior year then. And despite being like, I would say a somewhat obnoxious teenager, more obnoxious than usual, I would say. Mm-hmm. I got a decent amount of attention from women, and had a couple like shorter high school type relationships and some hookup situations. but a lot of like going out with different people. I feel like that was probably my first experience with like what dating is. Like going, I don't know this person. We got to make some conversation and see if there's anything there. You know?
Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
It's a hard question to answer. I moved every 3 years growing up. I've lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, where Audrey is 5 different times. We went to OSU together, so I lived in Columbus for a bit. When I was staying out of the country, I was in Venezuela for 8th to 10th grade. I was in Arkansas for grade school. I was in LA out of college, and then Nashville, and then Portland, and now I'm in Chicago.
Oh my goodness. How long you been in Chicago?
A lot of moving. I just hit a year. I moved here like in the middle of the damn pandemic.
Oh shit. Because my next question was going to be, how do you like it?
It's very good. I even with stuff closed, I've been lucky. I've got friends here, and one of my sisters lives here. And
Nice.
been able to do outside stuff. I have a backyard for the first time, so we've been able to like barbecue
Nice.
and shit sometimes. But you can take the train places, and everything's flat, so it's easy to bike around, and it's not crushingly expensive in the way that like New York or LA is.
Oh yeah.
I give it a thumbs up. Also, a big lake. Are you kidding me? Look, it's
Oh, yeah.
like the ocean. You can't see the other side.
I fucking love Chicago so much. And back in 2012, I was very close. I was like torn between moving to Chicago or Austin because I just finished grad school. I studied theater, specifically acting, and I was like, I want to do this for a living, but I knowing myself, I'll just like fall flat on my face if I go to New York or LA because I don't fucking know anyone there, you know? And I hadn't been like, I moved around a bit growing up too. So I'd been to New York a shit ton in the 90s, but I didn't know anyone there. So I was like, all right, what's like a sort of a halfway kind of thing where I can just like meet some people and get the ball rolling. And then after a few years, like move out because it's, you know, it's going to work out that way, right?
Yeah.
I ended up going to Austin because I was like, you know, there's film stuff there. I know Chicago's more like theater and comedy. So I ended up going to Austin and staying there for like 8 years. And the whole time thinking like, I wonder what it would have been like if I'd gone to Chicago. Because I got a lot of friends there. I regret not moving there often.
It's a good place. I appreciate a city that's like dense enough that you can walk around and like not have a car.
Yeah.
Good public transit and all that. And it's got that. I appreciate that.
How's winter? See, where were you living before Chicago?
So Portland before this, and
Okay.
Nashville for like 4 years before that. It was like my longest time in one place recently. But in LA before that. So all very mild or non-existent winters. I was not
Exactly.
prepared.
And so, wait. So when you say you were not prepared, did you even have a fucking coat?
I had like a light coat and some leather gloves. I had wool socks. I put pajama pants on under my jeans. And I was going out with my friends and I was like, I'm fucking miserable. And they're like, just get a bigger coat. There's a clear answer to this problem. You need to get actual winter clothes. So like in the middle of it, when there were these huge mounds of snow on the side of the street, it snowed for like 3 weeks straight. It was fucking crazy.
Oh yeah.
I got mittens. I got this big, like boxy. Remember that Kanye West and Lil Pump video where they're in the little boxy things moving around? I look like that shit. It looks real goofy. I got a hat. And yeah, now I'm kind of prepared. By the end of it, I was like, this fucking sucks, but like I can deal with this. I'm better than the heat in my mind.
Yeah, because you can always add layers, but with the heat, you can't. Well, I mean, you could remove layers, it just wouldn't feel good.
Once I'm naked running around, that's as far as we can go. Unless I make like an ice suit, like some kind of superhero made out of ice cubes, keeps me cool.
I could make a blazer out of those like ice packs, like the ones with like the blue gel you put in your freezer. Yeah, that would only last so long though.
But you'd look pretty fly and you'd be so cooled off while you were wearing that thing.
Literally everyone would have to call you the cool guy.
Mr. Freeze. Oh, if you touch your drink to me, it'll cool it down slightly. This thing don't last very long. Get over here. That's what I say to him.
So you went to college at Ohio State, and you studied psychology. And what? Did you have a minor?
No.
No, just psychology.
I did an undergraduate thesis on the targeted advertising stuff I was talking about. And that was like extra classes and stuff. So it was kind of like you could do a minor or do that, at least in the situation I was in. I like finished early too. As a whole thing. I had a bunch of AP credits.
Oh, nice. Going in.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way to. Did you do any like concurrent enrollment? Did they have that at your school?
Like while you're still in high school or something?
Yeah, because I like knocked out 9 hours before college, like while I was still in high school, just doing concurrent. And I was just getting like, your required stuff out of the way.
I think the AP classes were like that. Like I took AP stats, and so I didn't have to take like the intro stats class or whatever. It was that kind of thing.
Right on. Did you get credit hours out of it?
Yeah. I got a whole year worth of credit hours. So I was only in college for like 3 years.
Oh, how was college? How was that experience?
Big thumbs up.
Yeah?
I can't remember if Audrey mentioned when she was on here, but she was big on DJing when we were at school. Like a lot of electro and house stuff. Surprisingly good, like dance music scene in Columbus. At least at the time, like less so now, obviously, with the pandemic, but it's still been going up until right before that. There's a lot of like warehouse parties and like kind of underground but popular DJs will like come through there pretty frequently because there's a good amount of like venues and a scene in that area.
Nice.
And I've always been an electronic music person. I heard a Roixop song in the PS2 game SSX3.
Oh yeah,
a song called Poor Lino that still bangs. It's so good. And I was like 10. I was like, this makes me want to do something. I was no good at dancing for so long. It wasn't even something that would like occur to me. But I was like, this makes me want to move. This is good. And got kind of into that more as time went on. But then in college, like being able to be a part of like a scene with that and like going to these warehouse parties, and you get to dance with the same people like you're seeing. There's a big group of people who goes. It's like a very accepting community. I was like, this is great. Like being able to do that, like most weekends, go to some form of show, hang out with my friends, and see Audrey when she was performing. That's great.
Man, I'm so jealous. I would love to have had that. I went to school in Oklahoma. I'm living in Oklahoma now.
Not so much of that.
I don't know that they know what house music is. And now you're living in the birthplace of house music.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I haven't gotten to check out much here yet. But I have some friends who moved up here who are doing like event booking type stuff. And they're really into that stuff too. So they're doing booking for like house show kind of stuff. So hopefully there's some kind of improvement in the state of the world, but we'll see on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty fucking sick.
God.
You all right?
These fuckers are so bubbly.
Oh yeah. So how did I know I asked Audrey, but I'm going to do a little cross-examination here. I'm going to find the veracity of these claims.
We got to test them.
How did you and Audrey meet?
Okay, her recollection was a little different than mine. When she told the story, because she brought up specifically this Halloween party where she DJ'd and I was the Jaeger bomber, and I kept doing Jaeger bombs with people, and I blacked out and passed out at like 11 p.m. or some shit. I was a mess. So we have a mutual friend who was living in the dorms that I was in when I started college. And his girlfriend, and they'd been together since high school, and now they're married. They've been together for like 12 years. Wild. But she was a little bit older than us, and Audrey's a couple years older than me, and so they were taking classes together and had like made friends. And so I know she brought Audrey around a couple times, but it was just in passing. And I got the sense that she didn't like me. I was like, I don't think this person likes me very much. She didn't like fair. I was kind of obnoxious. But there wasn't like We weren't super tight initially. But then after that party where she DJ'd, and then another where we were listening to music, realized like we had all of this pretty like niche French electro shit in common.
Oh, fuck
And
yeah.
we're like, oh wait, this person's rad, and like similar politics. I was like, okay, excellent. But that was coming up on the end of college when I moved all the way out to LA for a couple years there. And so we lost touch for a bit there. And I think she mentioned this too, though. We kind of started playing video games with a lot of college friends as a way to stay in touch because people were all over the damn place.
Right.
And playing those games, pretty similar kind of banter to the show. I think we play off each other well, have a similarly dumbass sense of humor, and just always had fun, like chatting. You know, the games with that stuff always mattered, like as kind of secondary. It was just a good time to be able to chat with your friends like that and do something together, you know?
Right.
And then at some point it came up because I know she was saying she had that mic that she wasn't using sitting there. I had the same thing. I had gotten one when I had moved to Nashville a couple of years before that. It was just sitting on my dresser mocking me. I'm like, I want to record something, but I don't know what the fuck to talk about. Oh, I don't know what to do. And we're talking about that one of those nights at some point, and I was like, she's like, we should just try something and like see if we like it. And I was like, I talked about Loveline a lot because that had been such a big thing for me growing up. As I mentioned before, I just really like talking about relationship dynamic stuff.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, well, what if we just make that? We could just make like a low budget Loveline and see if we like it. And then we liked it a lot. So now it's coming up on 3.5 years later, continuing to do the thing. I think we just kind of lucked out landing on a topic too. It's a pretty endless source of material, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's got relationships and everyone's got relationship problems all the time.
Unless you have literally no relationships problems, which makes me think demonic possession or something. Something's not right there.
It's a weird relationship. Yeah. As Jean-Paul Sartre said in the play No Exit, hell is other people. So how was it like getting started with the podcast? Was there like a learning curve figuring out the technical end, figuring out how to do it, like as a person, like how the fuck do I approach this? How do I talk? That sort of thing.
100%. I had done stand-up prior to that. I was doing stand-up for like a year when I was in LA and for a little bit in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And so I had at least a little bit of a sense of like performing, you know,
right.
And coming up with segments or stuff along that line. But at the beginning, just that sense of recording for the first time and keeping a conversation going was definitely a little anxiety inducing. Like we would be drinking most episodes for like at least the first 10.
Oh yeah.
Just to kind of take the edge off and get the flow going. Because I remember turning like the monitor on for the first time and hearing my voice being like, this is uncomfortable. I don't know what to do with this. Or finishing the first episode and the gal I was dating at the time being like, you got to listen back and like see what you think. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And she was like, come on, I'm going to put it on. I won't give you a hard time. But then got used to it pretty quickly. I feel like even that time, I remember listening through and like halfway through the episode, I was like, okay, I don't sound as fucked up as I think. I guess that's how my voice sounds, not inside my head. Okay. That's good. And I don't know. We usually take some time at the end of the show and we'll talk about like, oh, we got this guest coming up, or like, hey, I got a segment idea. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of just at the end of each one be like, well, this worked, this didn't work. Let's focus more on this. Initially, we're going to have it be a call-in show. And I had fucking cobbled together this situation because we were doing the remote recording to patch a call-in so people could call into it. And that was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And we only successfully got a person through once. And so we're like, okay, this is too much of a hassle. Also, we're so new. Like, how frequently are people going to call into a podcast that's been around for 2 episodes?
Right.
So we switched to the question box, but that's worked great. And we kind of stuck with that. The biggest transition has been Reddit questions, where we kind of had to use at the beginning to fill up if we didn't get enough questions.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the past few months, we've consistently been getting enough for the show. And so that feels very fucking good.
I bet. Oh my God. Do you look, I'm sure you do, but does it just feel good to record every week?
100%.
Yeah.
We've talked so many times where we'll come into an episode and one of us will be like, I'm feeling like off today, or we both had a shitty day. And at the end, we're like, wow, I feel substantially better. There is definitely like a therapeuticness to talking about all this stuff.
Talking about other people's problems. Like, wow, I do not envy them.
A lot of it for me is like, I think when you're approaching your own problem, you can get kind of overwhelmed by variables sometimes and be chasing things that are kind of irrelevant.
You're too close to it. You can't,
Exactly.
You don't have the right perspective.
Exactly. But I've had moments in the show talking about like a question somebody sent in where I'm like, oh, that applies to me. And I just gave this advice that I have not been taking myself. How can I like reframe the thing that I'm dealing with, after kind of noticing the commonalities with this.
That's pretty wild. Find you stumble upon like a oblique solution to your own problem, and you didn't even know it until you get there.
Exactly. Which is, that's another part of the show for us too. It's not like, and we frame it this way. We're not experts. We're just people who have been through some shit too, trying to find the common ground, have some solidarity with people. And so it's very much not like we're here and we have the solution, but a lot of times it's like, here's our thoughts on us. This is also helping us with our own shit, that we, through talking this through about somebody else's issue, I think that helps with your own stuff too.
Oh yeah. I want to go back to first, this question's been bugging me. What years did you and Audrey go to OSU?
I started in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And graduated left at the end of 2013, and I finished some stuff remote for the end of it. She would have started in like 2008 then. I think she's 2 or 3 years older than me.
Okay. I think because my girlfriend went to OSU.
Oh shit.
And she started in 06 and finished in 10. So then I wonder if they might have ever crossed paths and didn't even know it.
It's possible.
Interesting.
I know she was in one of the bigger dorms there. And I believe it was the dorm where Jeffrey Dahmer spent some time as well. That was always a fun fact that was going around school.
Jeffrey Dahmer went to school there?
For like a little bit. I think for just like a year.
No shit.
I wonder what he was studying. I wonder what he was up to on the weekend. Jesus Christ.
Ohio, home to astronauts and serial killers.
And me.
And you. Astronaut serial killer.
These fuckers on the ISS aren't going to know what hit them. I tell you what.
And then you said you did stand-up for like a year and a half?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you'd wanted to do for some time?
Weird inspiration for it. When I was living out there, a friend and his dad were going to Vegas, and they were like, hey, come out and meet us, like crash here for a couple days. We'll go do stuff. I was like, oh, awesome. The first night I was there, we saw David Spade, of all people, do stand-up.
No shit.
Yeah.
How was he?
I was kind of like, whatever, it was just a show to go see, but, and this is like 6 years ago. I think my tastes have changed. I can't remember too much. Like, I don't remember if it would hold up to me now, but at the time I was like, this is very solid. I just remember being very like impressed. And I was not expecting much out of it. Like, I had like a really good set. And I was like, that looks fun as hell. I want to do that. It looks nerve wracking. And I was also kind of like, I had some anxiety around like public speaking and that kind of thing. And I was like, I want to throw myself into the goddamn deep end.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Be good. And it was sometimes. Other times I just had a panic attack on stage and couldn't get any jokes out. But it was all part of the experience.
Yeah. I think that's a great, like, I feel performance is a great sort of immersion therapy for people with social anxiety. Like, get in there, have a fucking panic attack in front of people, and then go to sleep and wake up and you're still alive. You didn't die. You did it.
Exactly.
You know?
And having those experiences like that where the bad thing that you're worried about happens, and then taking the time to be like, hey, but it's a day later and I'm completely okay. The next time you go up to do it, you can just remind yourself, this isn't as, I know from experience now, this isn't as bad as I was building up. And I think it gets a little easier over time.
Yeah, sort of desensitizing, but also sort of building up a kind of callous, not being callous, but, you know, tough, building up the toughness in that sense.
A little bit of tolerance, a little bit of like pressure tolerance.
That's it. Yeah. And then, so when you were watching David Spade, was one of the thoughts you had, I could do that?
100%.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And were you doing like open mics, stuff like that?
Mostly that. I did a house show once. I got to perform in front of like 200 people. I had made friends with like the booker of this open mic, and she was like, hey, you can get like 5 minutes on this. And I was like, there was a party too, and I wasn't expecting it, so I was very drunk. When I made people laugh, it like went okay, all things considered.
Hell yeah.
But for the most part, just doing open mics, you know, a city like that, there's so many going on.
Right.
And so each night you could kind of like hit a couple different places if you wanted to, or like several days in a row. On the weekend, sometime there's like a particular one we'd go to because it was like you could fucking my buddy would come who lived nearby, film my sets, and then just kind of like hang out and chat with people.
Nice.
And because I don't know, it was fun. People were really friendly. Met a lot of cool people through that. Good, interesting group of people to hang out with. And you go do the thing, and then you can kind of like go out with people afterwards. It was really nice.
And this was in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
And so people, was it like, did you run into any really like cliquish circles, or were people generally like, hey, we're all in the same boat, like, let's talk?
That is what I encountered. Granted, that's also like the kind of person who would not be cliquish. I think it's going to be the kind of person I'd be drawn to personality wise.
Right.
I also like ultimately I was only doing it for about a year. And so not enough to be getting into like paid gigs and stuff where maybe there's going to be more competition.
Right.
Or like bigger open mics where like a earlier slot might be important or something. I didn't like, I definitely see some people bickering like a little bit, but I never personally like, nobody was shitty to me. I even had, like I was saying, that panic attack on stage. I had a particular one. The Hollywood Hotel there had like this open mic in the basement. That was one of the smaller ones. But the woman who ran it had been like a professional comedian for a while. I'm blanking on her name. But I had this panic attack, and I got off stage just like looking, shaking, and she came up and she was like, come smoke a cigarette with me. And she took me outside and was like, hey, this is going to happen, and that's totally okay. It's happened to me. It's happened to everybody in there. It's like, don't let that get you down. Keep going with it. And I was like, holy shit. That was like such a fucking sweet, just good-hearted thing to do for somebody. It turned my whole, you know, I was about ready to like give up at that point too, because I'd done a few and the anxiety was just killing me. But people just tended to be really cool and supportive like that.
That's great. I wish that had been my experience in Austin.
I've heard bad stories from other people, so I think to some degree I got really lucky with the mic I fell in with.
Bad stories like in LA or in Austin?
All over the place. I hear from other stand-ups. I hear some shit sometimes.
My experience in Texas was in Austin in particular, and this was also an issue that I had constantly with the acting gig, and I did get like a pretty good amount of acting work compared to a lot of people who pursue acting. You know what I mean? Clicks, just so it's something about Austin, Texas in particular, because it's like really small, and there are more people who might not have been out in the world, who grew up, just happen to be in like the cool city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I did run into a lot of walls, like people who did not want to be friends, who did not want to meet new people, and who it's a problem I ran into when I was much younger, When I was just before fifth grade, I moved from New Jersey to a small town here in Oklahoma. And it took years for me to make friends there because, like, everyone, when I moved to the small town, said, unironically, you ain't from around here.
Oh my God.
They call me the F slur, call me crazy,
That
all
sucks.
sorts of shit. But it's that sort of, the seed of that sort of mentality is something I kept running into in Austin, where I don't want to like discredit like everyone there, because I did make great friends there, with acting stuff, with stand-up, which was short-lived for me, open mics. But particularly with the stand-up, like there were a couple small groups who ruled everything, all the open mics, everything. They were the gatekeepers, and they were too fucking cool for you.
That's what I'm saying. I've heard people talk about similar.
I rage quit. Almost a year in, I was at one particular open mic, and I was trying to joke that I thought was actually pretty fucking good, like pretty fucking clever. And also personal, because that's just me. I'd like, I want to draw on like personal self-deprecating kind of shit, because that's how I am. And I was doing this self-deprecating joke, and the host of this open mic just started cackling. Everyone else was just like on their phone,
That's how it goes.
He started cackling, and I finished my 2 minutes or whatever. Got out from behind the mic. He picked up the mic and started laying into me, saying like, "What a fucking dumbass!"
Jesus Christ!
Like the joke was basically, like, I've got a master's degree in theater. I put in a lot of hard work, and I got to do a commercial for herpes medicine. And he starts laying into me saying, "How fucking stupid are you? You're so fucking stupid. You don't need to go to school to act. I'm sick of all these like stand-up comedy classes, blah, blah, blah." Wow, what a fucking moron.
Jesus Christ.
I almost punched him. I very much wanted to knock his fucking teeth down his throat. And then after that, I was like, fuck this whole community. I'm going to take a break for a month and then see how I feel afterwards. Mm-hmm. And then pandemic started.
Oh, no. That's frustrating, too, because it's a vulnerable thing to get up there. And people are going to bomb all the time. You kind of just got to be like, all right, like next person. You can't be beating people up. It doesn't sound like you were doing that bad either. It sounds like this person just wanted to be an asshole.
Yeah, and let me tell you, he was not very funny on his own anyway. So I don't know who the fuck he thinks he is, but
I don't like him.
Yeah, insecurity. I'd chalk it up to insecurity, projecting it.
That comes up on the show a lot too, and I think that is the source of so many fucking problems.
Right? Something you don't like about someone else is something you don't like about yourself. And that's a hard one to figure out sometimes. It's like, is that true? Like, I feel like sometimes if you're trying to be mindful, you can get into this weird zone, or at least I do, where it's like, I'm frustrated with this very specific thing, and I'm not sure that it's something I'm frustrated with myself about. Or am I just missing it?
Yeah. It's interesting when stuff comes up like that, and it's such a, like with a feeling like that, it's not something you just kind of put in front of yourself and like dissect. Mm-hmm. That's what I was talking about before with the sitting with the feelings when the bad stuff comes up, and just taking the time to be like, how does this feel? Where in my body am I feeling it? All that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's a good one. Putting it in the body.
Just unjudgmentally kind of quietly sitting with it and feeling the thing. Sometimes that clarity comes out where it's like, oh, this does trace back to like this anxious circle I've been in. Or maybe, oh no, this is coming from like this unresolved thing in another area of my life. Can I fix that? Or is it something I just have to kind of accept and move on from,
Yeah. So why'd you stop doing stand-up?
Podcast, actually. I stopped because, like I said, when I was in LA, I had this friend who'd recorded the sets. He lived near this venue that I was doing the most open mics at, and near a couple of other ones. And so I had a good thing going there, but I was only there for about 2 years. Was out there. The person I was seeing all through college was out there. We'd been dating distance. And so I moved out there, first job out of college too, and like had all of these realizations of like, this relationship is not good. My career trajectory is not what I want. Also, LA is extremely expensive and I don't have any money. And so it was kind of like, I got to go somewhere else. I had some friends in Nashville. My family was about to move down there. And so it kind of worked out to move there. And there were open mics and stuff there. But initially, I just kind of like fell off when I got there, trying to find a job and all this stuff.
Right.
I got back into doing it a little bit. I actually had a really, really good set the second time I did one down there. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, maybe I can get back into this. But then we started the podcast like a week later. And even after the first episode where we were a little shaky, I was like, this is the thing. This is the thing I like doing a lot more than that other thing. And so just kind of fell off it. I'm somebody who needs to have some kind of project. I need to be making something in some capacity, even if it's just shit for myself.
Yes.
And it was kind of like when I found something that better fit that, I had less of the drive to do the stand-up. However, I think a lot of that was because I was in a bad place with the anxiety at the time. And this is video stuff, computer stuff is a lot less stressful for my kind of social anxiety. But weirdly, after this, the full lockdown of last year and into this summer, being able to get out and socialize a little bit more, I think I've worked through a lot of that. I am surprising myself with how much better it's going.
Yeah.
And having we've had like Jake Florius on our shows that was a stand-up. We've had some other folks that do comedy, and talking to these people and listening to their shows, I'm kind of like getting the itch again.
Oh yeah.
And I'm in Chicago now too, where there's a decent amount of open mics. So I am thinking a little bit about getting back out there and doing one. Obviously, shit's kind of in the air still right now. Things have like kind of closed here. I don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
But I kind of want to put myself to the test because that's kind of like the ultimate in social anxiety challenge. I am standing in front of all of these fucking people. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Let's see. What time are we at? You still got 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Let me consult my questions. I wrote down I'm just using the questions I wrote down for Audrey, and we didn't even get to all of them. Just kind of followed the river where it took us.
That's how these tend to go, and I like that.
Isn't it? Okay. What is do you listen to podcasts?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, other than this one, thank you. What are some of your favorites to listen to?
Big on Ballin' Out Super.
Fuck yeah.
Anime
Are you a
podcast.
weeb? Are you a weeb?
No. That show has anime pilled me, and now maybe I'm becoming one.
Oh yeah.
Because Audrey's always been into that stuff. I was always far too cool for anime. And I'd seen like Pokemon as a kid or whatever. But after finding Alex Patak through Pod Damn America and then getting onto Ballin' Out Super, that show was like my go-to calm, like I'm just trying to put my mind in a good spot with some shit that's irrelevant to me because like it's anime, but the comedy here is good. So like I was listening to a lot of that through the last winter when I was inside for so much time. And they're always make kind of jokes about like the crazy people who listen to this show who don't want to. That's me. But then we got to go on there. We had to watch an episode of Dragon Ball, an episode of Tenchi Muyo, which is one I hadn't heard of.
Oh shit! Yeah,
a young boy and his many adult wives. It's very strange.
I loved the shit out of that show, and being in my young teens when I first saw it, I was like, this is the life. I need this. I need a plethora of hot aliens who boss me around.
I'm converting to alien Mormonism. That's
yeah.
But doing those, I was like, wow, there's like so much fun shit to this, and like a level of self-awareness and kind of the tropes and stuff that run in the animes. It was all stuff that like I didn't know anything about. And I was like, this is interesting. And I've got all this time. Maybe I'll check some of this out. The one that got me into it, though, tell my friend all this stuff. And he's like, you got to watch Mob Psycho 100. You heard of that show?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's about like a kid who's got psychic powers, but he's like super powerful, but like has no idea, is really socially kind of awkward. He's in like school. He's just trying to kind of get by. And he finds like mentorship from this dude who's like a spirit buster sort of guy.
Interesting.
Who it turns out is just running a grift and has no powers, but is pretending to be like this highly advanced like psychic, mentoring this kid while he's just having the kid do all of the work.
Oh my God.
It's very goofy and like shockingly really like heartfelt, good-hearted show. I watched that and was like, okay, I get this shit now. This is really cool. It does a lot of things that like, I don't know, aren't so common in Western media. It's just a kind of different vibe to it.
Oh yeah.
But touching on like a lot of big like emotional issues and that stuff we've been talking about here and on my show, self-esteem stuff and all of that. It's really well done. And it's also just very funny, like on top of that. And that's my favorite brand. Sincerity and humor. I fucking love that shit.
Hell yeah. Have you seen, it's a movie, Perfect Blue?
I don't know that one.
I cannot recommend it enough. It's a 90s anime movie, and it has been ripped off of so much. Like,
yeah.
Did you ever see Black Swan?
I know what that is, but no.
Well, that movie was with like Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis. That whole movie was a ripoff of Perfect Blue, and there are like there are scenes in like Requiem for a Dream that are complete rips from this movie. It is psychedelic, like it's a psychological fucking horror. Like it's about this woman who this woman was a pop star and wants to get into acting, and starts having like dissociative episodes and like some just like personality disorders, but she's also being stalked by one, maybe two people, maybe by her split self. Like it is such a mind fuck. And if you like stuff that will make you feel icky and disturbed, I highly recommend it.
100%. I wrote the name down. This is an anime one too?
Yes, Perfect Blue. It is so good.
I'm down to get spooked.
Yeah. Have something like nice and light lined up afterwards.
All right, the fucking question though. So Ballin' Out Super is one of the big ones, and has got me anime pilled to some extent. And we just went on there again. It was very fun last week actually. Go check it out. Pod de America's in there also. Well, There's Your Problem. Have you know that one at all?
I haven't heard of that one.
They do engineering disasters. They're all they're all left politically too, into kind of left analysis of the circumstances surrounding all these big ass disasters, like dams failing or severe plane crashes, like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
One of them's an engineer, and they'll kind of comment on like, here is what went wrong, like here is where the kind of forces of capitalism ended up with all these cut corners to get profits for the fucking investors for this thing, and now like this apartment building has collapsed.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And there's so much of that, and it's another one where it's like, holy shit, this common thread of cutting corners to maximize profit is just causing so much fucking horrible shit to happen. They also have a very good sense of humor, and so it's like a surprisingly fun listen, even though it's a pretty heavy topic.
It's called Well, There's Your Problem?
There's Your Problem.
Nice. I will definitely listen to that stuff.
And then on a very different note, Jack Cornfield, are you familiar with him?
No. Jack Cornfield?
He's kind of he's a what would you call it? Like a Buddhist teacher almost. He's from the States.
Oh, I have heard of him.
but
Yes.
lived over in Vietnam for quite a long time and kind of specializes in communicating this stuff to Western audiences. His podcast is fantastic. It is just very good-hearted. Comment a lot of the topics I keep mentioning because I've been listening to this and through talking with my mom about this kind of stuff. But a lot of topics on just like self-healing and forgiving yourself and moving past things and all of that kind of stuff. And he just has this incredible calming voice, very thoughtful dude, like a lot of life experiences and stories. I've recommended that to a lot of people throughout the past year who have been struggling with different things.
He's got some books too, doesn't he? I think I've read one of his books.
He's in the 70s. I think he's been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
But really, really brilliant guy. That's my go-to if I'm struggling with some stuff and I need to be reminded to take it easier on myself and like step back from shit a little bit.
Right on.
Very good show.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's an honor. Do you have any? Oh, plugs. Let's get your plugs.
You can find my program, Radio Free Tote Bag, at rftb.me or follow us on social media at RFTB Pod. I'm at RFTB Dono. Audrey's at RFTB Audrey. And we take relationship questions and we answer them. We've got a link in our social media. You can send questions in. We'll do our best to answer it. It's a comedy program, but we give sincere advice.
They really do. It's good stuff. Check it out.
Thank you.
All right, Donovan. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Good times. Thanks
All
again,
right.
man. Good talking to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later.
And thus concludes the interview. Thank you to my guest for Donovan. Wait. And thus concludes the interview. Thank you to my guest for being a guest. And thank you, Donovan, for being the guest who was my guest. You're the best. Thank you for tuning in, dear viewer. I love you, and I will catch you next week. Bye.